What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and today we are going to be doing my first MLB playoff predictions video of the year. Now, these are what the playoffs would look like if they were to start today, September 23rd. I have them broken down by, of course, AL and NL, and this year's playoffs are, of course, different than last year's. Last year's, we had 8 teams from each conference make the playoffs. This year, it will be the now traditional 5. So, of course, first you have the wild card game, and then you have the winner of the wild card game play the 1 seed, and then, of course, the 2 and the 3 seeds play. So, right now, if the playoffs were to begin, New York would be the 5 seed, heading to Boston in a 1-game playoff in the American League. Tampa Bay would host the winner of that game, and then Houston will play host to Chicago. In the National League, the St. Louis Cardinals would be the 5 seed, going to play the LA Dodgers, the 4 seed, and then whoever wins that game would play the 1 seed San Francisco Giants, and then the 3 seed Atlanta MLB team will be playing at the 2 seed Milwaukee Brewers. So without further ado, I do have a couple of quick things to discuss. So of course, 4 teams have currently clinched playoff berths. They are, in the American League, the Tampa Bay Rays, and then in the National League, the Milwaukee Brewers, San Francisco Giants, and LA Dodgers have all clinched playoff berths. Now, no one's clinched a division yet, but we are getting very close to that time. We do have some teams that got eliminated, and those teams are Baltimore, Detroit, Kansas City, Minnesota, the LA Angels, Texas, Miami, Washington, the Chicago Cubs, Pittsburgh, and Arizona. All other teams are currently alive. Some are in much better shape than others, of course. You know, a team like Colorado is 1-2 losses away from being eliminated. But right now, they are still technically alive. They just need a lot of help. Now, there are some races worth monitoring. So the AL East, Tampa Bay currently has a 6-game lead in this division. However, Boston, the Yankees, and Toronto are all within 2.5 games of each other. Now, Toronto is only a half game behind the Yankees. Had I done this video yesterday, we would have Toronto in the wildcard game over New York. So Boston, New York, and Toronto all have interesting schedules. Boston and New York have a pivotal 3-game series coming up this weekend in Boston. And then Boston does have 2 more road series, one at Baltimore, one at Washington. Both are 3 games. New York, after their 3-game series in Boston, goes to Toronto for a 3-game series, and then comes back home to host the Tampa Bay Rays. That's a tough schedule for them. Toronto has a 4-game series at Minnesota right now, and then they will play host to the Yankees for 3, and then play host to the Orioles for 3. So it's going to be, obviously the Yankees have the toughest schedule of that group, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now the AL wildcard is the other race in the AL that's worth monitoring. Now, all 3 of the AL East losers, quote-unquote, are competing with Seattle and Oakland. Seattle is 2.5 games behind New York right now, and Oakland is 3.5 games behind. So, right now, after we already discussed the Red Sox, Yankees, and Blue Jays schedules, Seattle has 1 game at Oakland right now, and then they go to the LA to play the Angels for 3, and then they return home to host the Oakland Athletics for 3, and the Angels for 3. Oakland, they play 1 more game versus Seattle, and then they play host to the Houston Astros for 3 games before going on the road to take on the Mariners and the Astros. Now, in the NL East is going to be competitive as well. Atlanta currently holds a slim lead over Philly, 3 games. Now, these teams do meet in a crucial 3-game series in Atlanta next week. Crucial series. Atlanta currently has 1 game at Arizona, which will be played today. And then they have 4 games at San Diego. One of these games is rain suspended. San Diego currently leads that game 5-4 in the 5th inning. It will be started as part of a doubleheader tomorrow being Friday. So it'll be interesting. And then they also play host to Philly for 3 and play host to the Mets for 3. Philadelphia has 3 games at home versus the Pirates before going to Atlanta for a pivotal 3-game series, and then going to Miami for a 3-game series. Now, the other race worth monitoring in the NL is the NL West. Currently, the Giants are in first place by 2 games, but it is still very close. They have 1 game at San Diego, 3 games at Colorado, 3 games versus Arizona, and 3 games versus San Diego. The Dodgers, on the flip side, have 1 game at Colorado, 3 games at Arizona, 3 games versus San Diego, and 3 games versus Milwaukee. Without further ado, with all the background knowledge out of the way, again, keep in mind, I'm just going with how the playoffs would be if they started today. I know that some teams like the Yankees have much tougher schedules, but we're just going to stick with how they are. I'm not going to try to predict the rest of the season. So we're going to start off with the American League, and we're going to start off with the wild card game. And this will be a very good wild card game, of course. Anytime the Yankees and the Red Sox get together, it makes for great baseball. Now, Boston does have the lead, so they will be hosting this game. And they also have the head-to-head advantage over the Yankees, 10 games to 6. However, Boston was killing the Yankees to start the season. The Yankees, however, have rebounded. They have been doing better against Boston lately. So this will still be a very close competitive series. But again, assuming the Yankees hold on to the 5 seed here, I don't know if they're going to be able to make it. I don't know if they're going to have the firepower. I don't know if they're going to be too gassed or not. Everyone's going to be gassed at this point, but the Yankees, to me, will be more gassed than anyone else. Now, the other thing is, who will you have start this game? Probably Garrett Cole. But Garrett Cole has been struggling of late. He's much better in night games than day games, of course, oddly enough. But I don't know if I trust Garrett Cole. And then again, who will Boston have pitching in this game? Will you go Chris Sale? Will you go Eduardo Rodriguez, Nathan Eovaldi? I'm going to say Sale. I'm going to say he's back and, fully healthy and ready to go for this pivotal game. Personally, I do have to give the edge to the Boston Red Sox in this game. It will be, or in this one game, it will be close, but Boston, they're ready to play. They have a more consistent offense. New York has a lot of hit or miss guys, a lot of guys who strike out a ton. This will be a very high scoring game if I had to guess. So now we have the wild card here, winner being Boston. So we're just going to continue with the AL here. So we have the 4 seed Boston Red Sox going to Tampa, the 1 seed, in a big series here. So currently, Tampa Bay did win the series, I should say, in the season over Boston 11 games to 8. So this will be another good series, and I'm going to pretend again that Chris Sale will not be able to pitch game 1. So they're going to have to put out Eduardo Rodriguez. Rodriguez is one of those streaky, inconsistent pitchers where he'll have a great game, and then he'll get shelled. And then he'll have a good game, and then he'll get beat up. So I don't know if I trust him. I don't think I trust Eovaldi. So really, it's going to be tough. The Rays have similar pitchers to Boston, but, it will be a close series. This is definitely a series I could see going to the end, the max amount of games allowed. But I do have to give the slight edge to Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay getting that home field advantage will be crucial. Boston's going to be gassed after playing the Yankees in a wild card game. Of course, division games are always uber competitive, but I do think Tampa Bay is going to have a slight edge over Boston just because they're the 1 seed. They had a good run last year. They fell just short. They want to prove that this is their year. Now, the 3 seed Chicago White Sox will be going to the 2 seed Houston Astros in the other divisional series game. And this series was a bit closer. So Houston won the series 4 games to 2. Now, it should be noted that the home team is 5-1 in these games. So home field advantage for Houston is critical in this series. The fact that they have it really helps. The one thing is they have not played since mid-July, so some of the teams, they have kind of changed their momentum a bit. Now, who do you have as your pitchers for these games? Houston and Chicago have both been dealing with some pitching moves recently. Chicago's dealing with some injuries, but I'm going to say Carlos Rodon comes in. He plays, a couple games this series. For Houston, Zach Greinke has been struggling. Even Framber Valdez, he had a very good start on Monday, but he has been somewhat struggling since then. Luis Garcia, same thing. So it's going to be tough. Of course, Houston wishes they had Verlander, but obviously he's not going to be able to play in this series. He's done for the year. He didn't play it all this year. Chicago, I do love their offense a lot. I think that Jose Abreu wants to win it this year. Their bullpen is in position to compete this year. But I think Houston has a lot more to prove. I think they're still getting so much hate, and they want to make a run. Of course they want to make a run. They always want to make a run. But it's going to be tough for them to make the run. Offensively speaking, this team is ready to go. Carlos Correa, pending free agent. He's doing all he can. Kyle Tucker has been red hot lately. So I think that Houston will have the slight edge over Chicago. Houston also is the hotter team recently. Chicago has been a bit colder lately. So, yeah. And the other thing, too, is Houston has been playing more competitive baseball, more competitive teams than Chicago in recent weeks. So that also helps Houston. Plus a home field advantage, of course. So now in my ALCS, I have Tampa Bay hosting Houston. This will be a close one. So Tampa Bay and Houston, they only played one series this year. And it was early on. It was actually the last day of May and the first 2 days of, or last day of April, first 2 days of May. So it's been a long time since these teams have played. They do play very soon. So that will be a crucial matchup. How will it go? How it goes will influence how this series will go, in my opinion. But I just think, and it really pains me to say this, I think that the Houston offense is a bit more consistent. The pitching can overcome the woes. The bullpen is good enough. It's not elite. It's not Tampa Bay's bullpen, but I think Houston's bullpen is good enough. They're going to, of course, probably have Luis Garcia coming out of the pen. They're going to probably have, Christian Javier coming out of the pen. They're going to probably actually have Fromber coming out of the pen now that I think about it. If not him, Lance McCullers. So they're going to have a strong bullpen. So Tampa Bay. But I just trust the Houston bench bats a bit more. Like some of their no-name players, like Jose Siri, he's doing good right now. So there's going to be a lot of narratives coming to this game. You have, of course, the last couple of AL champions here, the last 2 years. Both teams, you have a controversy-surrounded team in Houston, and you have everyone's favorite underdog Moneyball team in Tampa Bay. Unfortunately, I do think Houston would be able to win this series. I think they just have more to prove than Tampa Bay does. They want to shut everyone up, all the haters up. So now we go to the NL. Now, the 5-seed St. Louis Cardinals have been one of the hottest teams in baseball. They are currently on an 11-game winning streak. The Dodgers have also been one of the better teams in baseball. Now, in this hypothetical matchup, who do you give the ball to? Now, I would say St. Louis, if Jack Flaherty's healthy, he's getting the ball. If he's not healthy, it's going to be a bit tougher for them. But they already have a tough task going into LA to play the Dodgers. Again, this is assuming the Dodgers are the 4 seed. It's not going to be easy for them, so they're not going to be looking forward to it either way, especially considering the fact that the Dodgers will probably end up putting Max Scherzer on the mound to face them. If not Scherzer, it'll be Walker Buehler. To me, it has to be Scherzer. He's been dominant as possible lately. The other knock for St. Louis is that Nolan Arenado did leave yesterday's game with back tightness, I believe it was, lower back tightness. So he's one of their big players. He's been hotter recently. They still have some good players, but a lot of their players are more contact-driven, like Harrison Bader, for example. So, they do have a lot of power in that team. They do have a lot of offense potential, but the bullpen has been struggling a bit lately, too. Giovanni Gallegos he's been a bit inconsistent in a couple of recent appearances. Alex Reyes has been pretty, I'm not going to say bad, but not good. On the flip side, LA, they're going to have Julio Urias coming out of the bullpen, assuming Clayton Kershaw is healthy for the playoffs. And we saw what he did last year. LA will make it over St. Louis. It will be a very good matchup, though. I would love to watch this matchup. Now, of course, that means I have the LA Dodgers moving on to play the 1-seed division rival, San Francisco Giants. This would be another good matchup here. Now, they played very competitive baseball in the regular season. San Francisco eked out the Dodgers 10-9. That is big. Now, the one reason why I had so much trouble with the series is you cannot count out the Giants. On paper, who the heck knows what you're getting with this team? No one can understand how this team is so good. And as a Phillies fan, I can't understand how Gabe Kapler is doing such a good job right now. But besides that, I do have a clear winner in this series. It won't be a sweep, obviously. It'll be a very close, very solid NLDS rival game, matchup, series, however you want to put it, between two former New York teams. Classic series. These two teams were always in the top when they played in New York. These two teams are two of the better teams as well in the past decade. In 2010, they combined for 3 World Series actually in 2010s, but if you throw 2020 in, so in the past 11 years, these teams have won a combined 4 World Series. So these two teams clearly know what they're doing. They have a lot of talented players. They have a lot of veterans. They're both in win-now moods. I do have to give the slight edge to the Dodgers. Now, part of this has to do with their pitching staff being stronger than San Francisco's. And that's not a knock on San Francisco. It's just San Francisco's pitching staff has been a bit slower in recent weeks. They have cooled off a bit. DeSclafani is like a pretty big example of this. They no longer have the potential heroics of Madison Bumgarner. Of course, he walked to play in Arizona, so it'll be tough. I just think the Dodgers, despite the fact that Cody Bellinger is currently on the injured list, despite the fact that he's not the best player anymore, I just think, Mookie Betts even isn't playing that great. The Dodgers just have too much offensive firepower to not win this series, especially with the somewhat suspect San Francisco pitching. And again, I'm not trashing San Francisco's pitching. They're still very good, but I don't think they're going to be able to handle this offense, especially with the way some players like Trey Turner have been playing, and they just got A.J. Pollock back from the IL as well. Now, the last series in the divisional series is between the 3-seed Atlanta and the 2-seed Milwaukee Brewers, and this was another close series. These two teams actually tied in the regular season 3-3. The road team is actually 4-2 in this series, so that does somewhat favor Atlanta. So Atlanta, they are 2-1 with Acuna and 1-2 without him. That should also be noted, since of course Acuna will not be playing in this series. Who do I have winning this series? It's going to be tough. Of course, Milwaukee's going to be throwing out their elite pitching staff. They're going to have Burns probably start 2 games if they go to 5. They're going to have Woodruff starting 2 games. They're going to have Freddie Peralta starting the game. Atlanta's going to have nightmares trying to get hits off of these guys. But recently, excluding the no-hitter, the combined no-hitter, I should say, Corbin Burns has been kind of slowing down recently. So that's a bit of a knock on him. On the flip side, in Atlanta, their pitching staff is not as good. They might have to trot out Huascar Ynoa for a game. That's a bit concerning. But I don't necessarily think that the Milwaukee offense is capable of taking advantage of that big advantage. These will be some lower scoring games, but Atlanta's offense has been among the league's best recently. They've had some very strong offensive numbers coming out of their outfield in particular, despite the fact, again, that Acuna is done for the year. Add that into the fact that Freddie Freeman is a pending free agent. They have a lot to play for, a lot more than Milwaukee does. Milwaukee's still a very good team, but I just don't think they're good enough, if that makes sense. Atlanta should be able to pull off the upset here over Milwaukee. Now we have the Dodgers and Atlanta playing each other in the NLCS, and in recent years, the Dodgers have had Atlanta's number. However, this time around, the Atlanta would actually play host to the Dodgers in a best-of-7 series. Now, LA won the season series 4-2. LA swept Atlanta in LA after Atlanta had lost Acuna. So it's going to be a close series, but LA is basically a super team at this point. They're so tough to beat. You can't really beat them. They have all the talent in the world, and even if Acuna was healthy, I still would have to give the edge to the Dodgers. I just don't think Atlanta matches up well against the Dodgers. So this would make my hypothetical World Series a rematch of the infamous 2017 World Series, sorry about my camera, doing that fuzzy thing there, between the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers. Now this would be an amazing series. Of course, these two teams' fan bases hate each other. Most MLB fans hate these two teams because, of course, Houston cheated in 2017 and, allegedly, however you want to put it, it's confirmed, but alleged. LA is LA. They're a super team. They bought their way to another World Series. They won the World Series, so everyone who was like, I want Kershaw to get a ring, won't be able to say that. Now, if this was the hypothetical World Series matchup, who would I root for? That would be tough. A lot of the reason I rooted for LA to an extent last year was because I wanted players like Pollock and Kershaw to get rings. That's no longer a problem. They all have their rings. I do, however, want to see, Trey Turner get another one, but he already has one. Max Scherzer, same thing. These are guys I like. So it's like, okay, at that point, what does it matter? So now it's Houston. I don't know if I can root for Houston. I don't know if I can root for the AL in general. I don't like rooting for the American League in the World Series. I will do it when it's a team playing against, say, Atlanta or usually LA, but this will be a tough one just because it's tough. And of course, these two teams, they played a pair of 2-game series and they split it 2 apiece. So it's not like one team clearly is the superior team. It comes down to who's the hotter team, who's done better recently, and all that good stuff. Now, I already mentioned Houston's offense has been a bit more consistent recently, but LA's offense definitely has the potential. We saw what Bellinger's done in the past. I don't know what's going on with him, though. LA, though, they have a lot of former World Series heroes. So does Houston. But I think this World Series would be where the loss of Justin Verlander will really get to the Astros, because they're going to see the Dodgers trotting out this elite starting pitching rotation that consists of 2 future Hall of Famers in Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, and of course, with the way he's been pitching this year, a potential future Hall of Famer in Walker Buehler. If one of them were to unfortunately suffer an injury, guess what? Julio Urias will take right over. So it's not like it's a huge deal. They have an elite top 4 starting pitchers. They have some good guys coming out of the bullpen as well. Houston, on the flip side, they have the firepower, but would they be able to handle the LA Dodgers? In my opinion, no. The LA Dodgers will be the 2021 World Series champions, winning this series. And if I had to guess, if you wanted me to tell you how many games I think this World Series would be, I would probably have to go with a 5, maybe 6-game series. So the LA Dodgers will be able to pull off the comeback. They'll avenge their 2017 loss. I can just imagine the narratives going into this hypothetical World Series, as the Dodgers fans will just be so upset with what happened in 2017. The Astros fans would want to prove everyone wrong. The Astros in general would want to prove everyone wrong. The Dodgers in general would want to prove everyone wrong. So this would just be an amazing World Series. I don't know if that influenced my decision in any of these series. I mean, I'm sure Giants fans will say, yeah, you should have gone with the Giants over the Dodgers. But, I mean, we'll have to see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting playoff picture this year. Again, these are assuming that the standings hold from the 23rd of September. As a Phillies fan, obviously, I hope they don't. I want to see the Phillies in over Atlanta in particular. But we'll have to see. Phillies are struggling against the Marlins. I didn't get to mention this before. So that crucial 3-game series against Atlanta is just crucial. I got to keep saying crucial there. Still, this is how I have the playoffs going. I'd love to see this happening. You'd have so many big rivalries here. You'd have the Yankees-Red Sox historic rivalry. You'd have even the AL East rivals of Boston and Tampa Bay. You would have, of course, the historic rivals of LA and San Francisco. You would have the battle of former Milwaukee teams, a former and a current Milwaukee team in Atlanta versus Milwaukee. You would have the recent half-decade rivalry between the LA Dodgers and Atlanta. And then, of course, you would have the infamous rematch of the 2017 World Series between Houston and LA. In fact, these two teams didn't even really care for each other when Houston played in the National League. So, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did go into some extra detail, but I feel like playoff predictions are definitely worth it. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a good rest of your day.